Hey fam, how you doing? Assalam. Hope your Ramadan is going great. So, I want to talk to you about something. There's a lot of talk from progressives about legalize all drugs, and I've made a few videos on this, but I want to kind of give you some more things to think about. If you're hearing these arguments of, well, we want to reduce the cartel's power, and it's not a crime to be an addict, you need to get help and such, and why should society care? They say you should be free to do what you want and put in your body what you want as an adult. And they say legalize, tax, and regulate. Here's the thing. I was raised around addicts. Okay? Crack, heroin, meth, pills, and alcohol especially. But in a different way, I'd argue. These permanently alter a person's brain. Okay? They say, oh, well, we'll force them to get help. That is not going to solve the problem. If you are advocating drug use, you are not a good person. Why? Because you cannot smoke crack and be attending to a 2-year-old. If you say a police officer shouldn't arrest a mother who's smoking crack in front of her 2-year-old, you're really a degenerate person. And if you say, oh, well, women can drink in front of their kids. Yeah, and how do those parents turn out? I was babysat by one of my aunts she overdosed on pills and alcohol. But I remember one time when I was little, I went to go see what she was doing, and I had some little animal cookies. They're the pink ones or the white ones with frosting and they have sprinkles, and I was watching cartoons and I went to go look for her. She was passed out on the toilet with her pants down to her ankles and her mouth open, like, completely passed out. And I was old enough to understand what an alcoholic was. And so I just went and watched cartoons. Both of my stepmoms, who were strippers, were also alcoholics. Okay, they were constantly yelling, fighting with my dad, slurring their words. They never cooked, they just looked pretty, and then they aged really poorly because the alcohol sucks out your vitality and beauty. And then the other one overdosed and died as well. So even one of my stepmoms overdosed and died and left 2 children behind. So alcohol has its own vices as well, right? We already know that. But you cannot compare alcohol to crack. These alcohol, you put some fruit in a bag, it goes bad, turns, and pruno, as they say, as they make in prison, it's there. Okay, but crack and stuff like that, some of those, and meth, those are made by lab coats. Those are made by people who have a deep sense of chemistry, and then they put whatever else into it to cut it. It's a different type of process not found in nature, right? Don't compare weed to heroin, black tar heroin, even though it comes from a poppy plant. Okay? Come on. Let's not play semantics here. When people say legalize all drugs, you're caring more about addicts giving into their weakness than for children's safety. You cannot be a safe, reliable parent if you are completely intoxicated on drugs. If both parents are strung out on heroin and there's a baby screaming in their diaper, okay, that is not healthy for society. Okay, and if you've ever been around an addict, they're always looking out the window, they steal to go buy more drugs. Okay, so you say legalize it, tax it, and regulate it. You act like that's an all type of solution. Okay, it's legal. So so like people in my family who are recovered addicts, if there was a supermarket or store, like a pharmacy where they could go buy drugs, I would be so afraid every single day walking past that. Making it easier for them to relapse. I think everyone who wants to legalize drugs should have to see what children look like who have birth defects because of drugs. Babies who are born from women addicted to cocaine, their little feet shake. It is the saddest thing ever. It is extremely sad to see addict babies and deformed babies. Those come from anything, pollution and such. But specifically people who use drugs while pregnant and the problems those babies face is intense. And if you care more about a drug addict getting high than the safety of children, you're not some loving liberal progressive. You're spreading evil in the world. Because you show that by even saying legalize it, decriminalize it, and tax it so that the government makes money off of killing families, you're a monster. You clearly are. And I noticed something among these atheists who have that. They say legalize all drugs. Some of them are really fat and obese. They kind of have a very tired, unmotivated look. They kind of hate their life. They're addicted to porn. They eat really bad. They don't, they're always making sex jokes. They're just very dirty. And these people need drugs to get out of their consciousness because their life sucks and they know it sucks, and that's why they need drugs. So don't let them drag you down with them. And then the very posh people who are like, oh, I'm a liberal in this suit, but I smoke. I don't really smoke. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I have a little martini at the bar in Manhattan and blah, blah, blah. So why not just legalize heroin? It's like, what? These people don't even live in the hoods. Where you see addicts homeless, like on LA and Skid Row, you can see them fighting with each other. They live in tents. When someone's an addict, they have mental breakdowns. My own mom, I used to have to see her. One time she was eating carrot cake and just rocking in a rocking chair. And she was kind of going out of her mind, and she was sober, but she just has a moment, She has bipolar disorder, right? She has chronic depression, anxiety. She got a bunch of problems. From a life of trauma and a life of drugs and a life of working in the sex industry. And I, as a child, wasn't allowed to have her around till I got older. And then when I needed a mother, she wasn't there because drugs took her soul. Same with my father. Was once a strong, healthy man. Then I got to see how drugs takes that away. Drugs robs people of their vitality. So if you say legalize all drugs and you're looking nice and you're making YouTube videos, but you never go to rehabs, you never go to Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, those are meetings where addicts talk about their problems. You don't donate to charity. You've never seen a drug baby. You don't foster any children. Okay? You don't babysit any children. You don't help with any after school programs. You don't live in the ghettos and have to be around addicts. You've never been assaulted by a homeless person on drugs and stuff like that. Why should anybody listen to you? Drugs ruined my family. Just across the board. And the only hope I have is that when I die in Jannah, and if some of my family members get in, Allah will remove all of their, all the darkness that was in their hearts that drugs caused. When you say legalize all drugs, don't play the games of, oh, well, they just won't go to jail, but you're making it easier and being softer. And you say, oh, well, an addict needs help, they don't need to be punished. A lot of the times the addicts get clean and you have to force them to get clean because the drug is stronger than them, you bimbos. People don't, I noticed a lot of these liberals, they were not raised by drug addict parents. They were not raised by them. They might have had a couple of them I noticed maybe had alcoholic parents, but alcohol is nothing like crack. Okay? And you need to see the abuse that children go through in homes where there's just drugs, right? Garbage everywhere, hoarding, the mental illness that permanently stays in an addict stays there. And it's very hard to trust an addict because they lie. They lie constantly. They will tell you anything to get money for their drugs. Okay? And they will do anything. They'll sell their bodies, they'll rob, they'll steal puppies out of people's backyards. They will do anything and everything to get that fix again. Why would you want that to spread? And you say, oh, well, we'll make it so where the drug cartels don't have much of a hold and then people won't be able to want it as much, there'll be less violence. Why are you choosing to help cartels in a way that hurts families? You help the cartel by making them have a product. You think the cartel won't go into legitimate business? I tried to open a restaurant in Mexico a while back with somebody, and the cartel showed up and demanded 4,000 pesos a month in order to operate. The cartel harasses even good businesses, and that was in Cancun. Okay? You think that if you legalize freaking crack, that's gonna somehow damage the cartels? No. Even the cartels will take some money on avocados. A criminal is a criminal. A mafia man is gonna get some money, you're gonna get that money. And how evil are you to say, you know what? We want to take away power from the cartels, but we want to destroy families. We directly want to hurt children. Okay? You cannot say legalize all drugs like it's some like horny utopia. A lot of the guys who talk about legalizing drugs is because they want to get women drugged up so it's easier to have sex with them. And a lot of the women who want drugs is because they have sex with so many people that they need drugs in order to have sex with those people so they can alienate themselves and then do what they have to do. Seriously. You sugarcoating legalizing all drugs without being on the ground or living around addicts is disgusting. Do not legalize all drugs. And if you support legalizing all drugs, you are a monster, and I don't want to hear you say, oh, the death penalty is wrong. Like, think about these people, some of these liberals. They say, make abortion even easier and cheaper, that state funding should go towards killing babies, right? That you should reduce police presence, abolish prisons, reduce gun rights, while also legalizing all drugs. Think about that combination there. So making drugs easier to get while reducing cops' presence and reducing people's gun rights. That shows you how these people don't even live in the real world. These YouTubers on their phones, right? Kind of like what I'm doing here, but still. Saying, just legalize drugs. Oh, and a lot of them even say, oh, I don't go out a lot. Oh yeah, you don't go out a lot, do you? You don't live in the hood, do you? You get super chats and you have your little chat streams on the side. But you want to make it so that a woman walking home has to worry about a dude high on pills and meth and and cigarettes and whatever the heck he has in his system, making him all crazy on top of mental illness. And she can't have a gun right, and the police presence has been reduced, so she's going to have to fare for herself. Think about what kind of world the liberals want to create. Okay? To even say to be soft on drugs is disgusting. You should be punished for using hardcore drugs because you are a bad parent. They say, oh, well, if you're just relaxing at home and you're using a little bit of crack here and there, the longer you use those drugs, the more it takes hold of you and the more you forget your own self. Like Smeagol in Lord of the Rings, you become a whole nother creature. So many addicts will tell you and be so embarrassed about what they did when they were high. And a lot of them get pregnant and then they go abort the babies. I mean, it's really sick. And you're like, well, yeah, well, it's better for the baby to be dead than to have been born and then born with an addict parent. We can argue semantics about that. But you're advocating to separate families, to birth more malice in the world, while being soft on crime and trying to reduce police presence, while reducing gun rights, step by step incrementally, while also attacking manhood. That is a problem. Because if we don't have any strong men to defend women, okay, and chivalry is dead, and all the men are weak because of poor diet and bad role models, and, you know, they're just sedated through drugs, while the homeless men are out there rampaging, being insane, is going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for our society. Don't make it easier for addicts to relapse. It's so cold and calculating to say, just tax it. Just tax it. Oh, alcohol. Yeah, prohibition. You know, that caused, when the Italian and Jewish mafias and the Irish mafias were running alcohol. Yes, it was a violent era. But what did alcohol do to the Native American Indians? The liberals are always mentioning the Native American Indians, right? The indigenous peoples. How many stories did the chiefs say of how whiskey and alcohol killed the tribes faster than any of the diseases or the guns or intertribal warfare? When alcohol was introduced so heavily, it sedated the natives, and then when the people were able to trade the whiskey for pelts and for leather or whatever else they wanted, it made the chiefs weaker, and they got conquered. Think about it. You know, Islam has a point when it talks about intoxicants. It reduces your honor, right? It reduces so much. But if you're going to sit here and tell me you're a loving liberal because you don't want more addicts in jail and you want to legalize, tax, and regulate, and you just say, well, Ecuador, I think it was Ecuador did it, so we can do it here in America. You think people won't drive while they're high on crack, and how many more deaths we'll have? Why is it that, like, liberals want there to be more drugs when we can see that drugs will cause so many health effects, right? That will literally cause more cancer. It'll fill up more hospitals. All the damage that comes from drugs, the mental effects, is okay, well, we'll expand mental health care. How about you expand the mental health care first? They say, oh, well, it's never going to happen to legalize all drugs, right? That's what they say. But you're pushing for it, you know? And you never know, with how much they push, they might actually get it. So hear me out. This is something very troubling, because it just blows my mind how anyone will take an advice from a liberal who didn't grow up in a ghetto around addicts or wasn't raised by addicts, and who doesn't even donate to children funds or do anything with children, right? If you legalize all drugs, you're putting a death sentence on children. I mean, liberals already glorify abortion, so I mean, they kill babies in the womb. Now you want to traumatize them while they're out, while saying we want universal pre-K. You're gonna need a lot more than universal pre-K, preschool, if you're gonna legalize heroin and other factors like that. They say, well, morphine is a form of heroin. Listen, and if when someone gets addicted to morphine, how is that for them? We need less substances in society. Okay, we need less people being intoxicated and more people being awake and focused. So no, don't legalize all drugs.